Thank you, Alan, for another awesome speech presentation. Every year when I look to this event, I say, keen to go along. And every year I say, just make sure I don't follow Alan. And that's the ultimate compliment, because we need your speechwriter, if it's not yourself. And I'm thinking that maybe it's Alan, because much of what he has covered certainly resonates when I think of our view of this future and what it's about. You know, in the introduction there it said, you know, we're focused on innovation. And I sit there and I was talking to my team yesterday and said, you know, don't hold back if you've got a good idea for the next iPhone, because that little innovation has certainly changed our industry globally right across the world. And it is the innovation of the smartphone. So when customers talk to me about what's driving change, there's a lot of things. And I say to them, the next big thing is already in your pocket. It's a smartphone. And it's absolutely changing everything we do. Now the topic is, we were given it was to talk about business models. Now what are the new business models? And when you think about it from my perspective, you sit there in amongst the industry, perhaps you're like the frog in the water saying, wow, where are we going? What are you heading? You step back and you say, well, what's the drivers, oh yep, got it now, of the change as we see it? Well, clearly increasing customer expectations. You know, Alan framed it up very, very well. You know, driven by these devices, be they your favourite Android phone, your iPhone, your iPad, your tablet, driven by higher speed networks, you know, social media, social networks, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, whatever. You know, our customers' expectations are rising and rising and rising as to what they can do with communications. You know, I look back just a few years ago and looked at our business model, and you know, it was pretty straightforward. Voice and text is what we did. It was pretty cool, you know, pretty easy. Now you look at our business model and you say, wow, all of you are expecting services and experiences that are significantly better for you, significantly more challenging for us to deliver as an industry. When you look at the competition, that's the other big driver. Both traditional competition, Alan and I and Paul and all the other telcos in the room, and the new ones, and we'll talk about that in the beginning. And the new ones I mean the Apples, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Twitters, anyone who is in this wider industry of ours. They're also our very big partners, the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks. So it's a very different nature, the market we're looking at. Structural change, absolutely agree. The biggest single structural change that any industry has seen around the world is what our government is leading us through right now. Absolutely, as a New Zealander, the concept of super fast broadband into the home, I sign up to, I already want, it sounds exciting, but as an industry, it is transformational beyond the imagination. There is no blueprint for us to follow. We're working it out. It took one term, 3 years in political sense, to figure out the supply side. Give us a few years to figure out the retail side, the demand side. It's something that is absolutely changing our business model. And then finally, I've talked about it, innovation. Innovation coming from outside of the traditional industry, innovation coming from within the industry, be it what you can do with fibre and high-speed networks, what you can do to actually figure out entirely new ways of doing business in this more connected world, this faster world, each and every day. So we look at these things all the time and try to figure out, you know, what do we do? We're very encouraged when we think about our core business, the mobile business, that, you know, there is unlimited demand out there. It's really rocketing ahead. It's quite amazing what you're all using your devices for. You know, it's just huge growth of uses of devices out there. And just amazing stuff. These are some of the stats that have been shared recently, and you look at what people do. More importantly, what they'd rather give up. It's quite amazing what they'd rather give up. And indeed, the other day I was talking to some of our people in the UK, and some of the banks right now are trialling a new service over there with Vodafone, which is based on the premise that, you know, 99.995% of the time, you are going to have your mobile phone with you when you do a credit card transaction. So a very simple service. It says, as well as doing the usual checks to see if you're the one using your card, it also goes back to our network and says, where's the phone? And if the phone happens to be in the same place that the card's being used, 99.995% of the time, it's probably a legitimate user. If it's not, it probably isn't. So just in that one little example, gives you an idea of the endless possibilities of things that are starting to be created. Now, that's not a huge revenue earner for anyone, but in terms of changing the way that particular process works in the banking industry, it's very, very big. If we've read the papers about scammers and fraudsters and what have you, using our networks to create new services and new industries is something that's hugely exciting for a lot of businesses in this audience and around the world. So a lot of stuff happening. Communications are becoming more and more important in its wider sense. Likewise, when we think about what's driving this, and I spoke last year and I think the year before, you know, there's some powerful forces driving our industry, and it's not the traditional telcos. You know, Google is in the business of Android because it wants more eyeballs. Absolutely. And it's after the promise of making everyone a Google searcher because it needs to increase its universe, its marketplace. So it's got Android, it drives it out there, it increases people's use of the search engines and everything that goes with it, drives there and fuels their ecosystem. Likewise, Facebook. You know, the more users of Facebook, the better that model looks, the better the IPO price looks. They're driving the expansion of this business. So you look right now and you say to yourself, you know, there are going to be many, many more users in a mobile context, a smartphone context, a tablet context, all around the world. And that's the humanoid users. The machine-to-machine users are equally exciting. You know, anything that can be connected will be connected. Great phrase from the Ericsson team. And you look out there today, you know, we're building the networks not just for the next 5 billion people, the next 50 billion devices. It's quite amazing what will happen. And in that area, some of the work we've been doing recently as an industry, ourselves, Tel.Con 2 Degrees, working with Paymark to enable at a very base level near-field communications for contactless payment, sort of charts the way for some exciting new possibilities. And it's happening right across various industries, be it automotive, be it electronics, be it in the manufacturing sector. If a device, if it can be connected, it will be connected going forward on the networks we're building. And this continues on faster and faster. So the world is becoming far more connected even than we imagined, and all these different types of uses are reflecting on what our business model needs to be. So now you look at the marketplace, a different view than what Alan subscribed to. It's the same underlying message. This is an awfully big marketplace. Huge marketplace, about $1.5 trillion. And you look at all the competitors right across the value chain. You know, to understand this, you need to go back. You go back a few years and you'd look at the value chain, you'd say the network operators, everything forward of them was what the network operator provided to their consumers and to their businesses. We were a black box. It was a contained value chain. You bought everything from your favourite telco. Now, I'd love to say that, you know, we were the only ones that are driving the demand in the smartphone business. Absolutely not. Driven by the handset manufacturers, by the operating systems, be it your favourite Android or your iOS, or indeed soon to be your favourite Microsoft. They're driving the UI interface to our industry, to our servers. You look at where they're going. You know, Apple and the guys from Google are not just content at the front of it. They're moving right through the value chain. They're creating ecosystems end to end, so delivering content all the way through. You look at the equipment manufacturers at the other end. You know, lots of them provide great services to our businesses. Some of them are already in the handset business and the UI business. Others of them are in the business of building and owning and managing networks for us and for other companies here around the world. So they're looking right across this value chain. You look at what's happening in the app space and the billing space. You know, as a traditional telco, that would be a great space if we had that and we led that, but we're not. It's been led by others in the market. So you look right across this and you say to yourself, wow, this market is absolutely a dynamic market today and it's changing very, very fast. Now, clearly you can see down the bottom, to back up what Alan said, you know, big markets out there globally, still a lot in this thing called the network, $1.15 trillion of value out there in terms of revenue that the industry charges. So when people say to me, as I said last year, make your services free and do it via advertising, it's like there's a hell of a lot of advertising going to have to come from somewhere else to do that. It's a lot. Because I think Google gets about 60% of it, and let's say they're around about $100 billion. You can just see what it means in terms of the changing business models. It's not quite going to work. which is why you're starting to see in Europe, for example, Google involved with the EU and with operators trying to figure out, well, we probably actually have to share some of the cost in this value chain over time. And some discussions going on there as to whether they should participate and start to fund. And by the way, when they've had the opportunity, they're not shy to go and invest in networks, are they? So they're absolutely building out wireless networks all around the US in different shapes and forms. So we look at this value chain today. The message from me is that there is huge competition right across the value chain. And our belief fundamentally is that what we need to be doing is to figure out, where do you partner, where do you compete, and to allow the industry to do deals right along this value chain. And if you look at this value chain, it's probably incomplete in one respect. It's not the content part in there. Because if you add the content in, be it music, be it TV, be it all the other forms of content, you're seeing deals being done right across this value chain. And that's what should happen. People should figure out as an industry, who you can partner with, who you compete with, where do you create value, do the deals, get on and make it happen. So if you look now at our industry and what's been happening there, the picture's the same. You look at network, platform, services, it was pretty good in 2000. There's a number of competitors there. There was 3 major network providers. You go forward to 2005, maybe 2006, not too sure. We started to see lots of different wholesalers on there, more network providers starting to build back-end networks, making it all work in different areas. You come forward to today, there's just a few more brands in there, some of them very strong. The logos don't exactly do justice to the strength of the people that are in the industry now. Apple, Google, Sky, Facebook, the telcos, and in the telco space, we now have a model whereby if we look and say the future's about fibre, then we're a retail service provider, and behind us we have 4 different network companies we're all looking to work with and build together the end-to-end model, which is our marketplace. So you look at this, it's no longer a vertically integrated model. It's no longer a model where there's a few players. It's a model where there are significant players in the marketplace, all trying to figure out where's the value chain, what do we focus on, who do we partner with, who do we compete with, how do we make this industry work. And if you think about that, then to finish on what are my views of the business model, how's it going to evolve, this is pretty straightforward really. Enormously hard to do, but pretty straightforward. Clearly, it's a very open value chain there, it's not closed anymore. So we need to do and work with anyone and everyone to try and create unique value for our customers. There is a huge amount of convergence going on, but also a huge amount of fragmentation in the market with different players and different aspects. Many, many competitors. We spend much of our time not thinking about our traditional competitors, but the new ones, who are also our partners, the over-the-top players. We spend a lot of time thinking about what does that mean. Because as Alan referenced, we invest in 15-year cycles, longer sometimes. So figuring out where the value is going to be in that marketplace is quite a challenge when you come to the board, put forward the business case, say here's what we need to do to build out this network to counter for that new development. Globally, locally, everything's changing. There's players from all around the world involved. We used to just sole supply everything, but now we need to figure out, well, should we really actually do that or should we partner or collaborate? Classic example. Everyone on my team thinks we should be in the IT services business. And I'm saying, well, I really like HP and IBM and Datacom and just not my game. But I could be wrong. That might be something we need to be doing. Everyone says cloud is fantastic. We should be part of that. Yeah, I think so, but do I partner? Do I do it? Do I collaborate? These are all the issues we need to work through. And I guess in an interesting way, you look at it and say, well, it used to be pretty simple to build products and services. My good old voice and text model. It's very easy. You put out a couple of tariffs, a few more this and that, a few devices from Nokia, and away you go. Now, reasonably complex to get things out the door. Your expectations are a lot higher. The width of what we need to do is a lot broader. And trying to figure out, well, how does that create innovation and differentiation is just absolutely key and a quite elusive target. As I said, if we'd invented the iPhone, we'd be in a different position. So when you say what's success, to finish off, my view of what we need to do, well, we absolutely get clear on our role in the value chain. very clear, and we're working through that as a priority to say, well, what really is Vodafone all about in this value chain? Customers. Yeah, we have a very, very strong relationship with our customers, perhaps stronger than others who are entering our industry. That has to be our obsession, because if we can't be relevant to you as customers, then we're not going to be long for this world. Partnering, competing, cooperation, what do we call that? You know what I mean. Co-opetition, I think it's called. Absolutely fascinating subjects. We were talking about it yesterday in our business, and we concluded that we all wanted to do it, but we're not very good at it. You know, it's easy to say we should partner, but it's a heck of a thing to figure out how to do it in an industry where everyone has their view of their piece of this value chain. And finally, if we're successful, then what we're going to have to do is reinvent ourselves in a big, big way along the axis of being very agile so we can move and figure out where the value is. We need to absolutely speed up the cycle time. 15-year cycles don't quite cut it anymore. And we absolutely have to simplify down everything we do for the reasons that Alan mentioned. You go forward, you say, well, in this new world where all the value is not coming to the traditional players, yet we have a significant amount of the cost, how do we simplify down what we do? You know, I'm amazed when I look at other industries in this respect. You know, the PC industry, when you first bought your PC, this is going back a bit for a lot of us, you know, good old IBM, they gave you all the support, didn't they? And there were shops selling it, and it was, you know, this box or the operating system, and you got all the support as part of the deal. You know, you go fast forward to today, and clearly, you know, if you don't take your warranty option, or you don't use the online option, or if you don't actually pay for support, there is no support. Today in our industry, you all expect we all should be supporting everything that happens on a smartphone. I know this for a fact, because the number one call into the call centre when someone buys an iPhone is what's iTunes. And we duly tell them what it is, and we help them set it up, and then we wonder where we're going to send that bill. Unfortunately, at the moment, we send it to ourselves. Slight challenge. If you're prepared to pay, I'll get the service contract ready for you and come and give a lecture to our marketing department who think that we can't do that. But it's going to have to evolve. So when you think about our model, we need to figure out what we're doing in a marketplace that's wildly different than it was a few years ago. And you know, the good news is there is a lot of optimism out there, and there's a lot of different things happening to finish. You know, up the top there, you know, Vodafone globally billing services in the Android marketplace. So instead of just being in the, if you like, the iTunes or the Google marketplace, you could potentially have a new service and would charge you a fee to bill it onto our bill with our customers. New business model, operator billing we call it. You look at what we do with the handset manufacturers, this little handset there, globally we build Vodafone branded handsets, working with our partners to try and figure out, well, what's the UI, and to participate in a space where doing that allows us to actually get better relationships and better deals with the handset manufacturers which are driving the UI. You look at our relationship with Sky that's been very successful in partnering with them to bring together their content package with our broadband package and sell that here in New Zealand. Join up the top there, announced at Barcelona. This is about the industry coming together globally. Just been launched in Spain where Telefonica, Vodafone and I believe Orange are agreeing on an approach to actually enable a standard in our industry called Rich Communications Services Extended. What a mouthful, eh? Brand words called Join, but what is it? Very, very simply, it's about us enabling all of our community right across the mobile industry to participate in instant messaging, chat, or all these above the, what do you call it, over-the-top services that you get from the Facebooks, the Googles, and what have you, as a way of fighting back. It's sort of like your community versus our community, and are coming together and saying this is an area that we need to actually collaborate on so we can compete with the Facebooks, the Googles, and the Apple communities, because that's what they're doing. They're creating big, big communities, and so we need to compete. And if you look at that and you say, wow, that's strange, then I'll take you back to why we have GSM around the world. It's because all the operators got together back in the 80s from memory and put together the GSM standard. And Rich Communication Services is just another level of that, that says here's how you provide these really rich services beyond voice, text, and basic data. And so you're starting to see that come together as, if you like, a reaction to over-the-top players say, well, we can actually fight back. My community versus your community. And down the bottom, as I mentioned already, is the example of here in New Zealand, collaboration between the mobile operators to put in place a platform with the banks, because we can't compete with them in that regard, to enable contactless payment. Now, to be very clear, this is a collaboration at the base level, just like the banks have a common clearinghouse. Beyond that, we will compete and compete very vigorously for the offerings that this will create with the banks and with one another. So it's collaboration at base level, competition at the services level. So when I stand here today and say, what's the new business model of the future? What's it going to look like? As I've said to many of the business customers I talk to, well, I don't really know. These are some of the things we're working on, and I'll have the answer in 5 years' time. So with that, thank you and enjoy the morning.